Okay, in this video I'm going to start a new project and download some code to a PLC. I've got a S7315 in front of me here and another touchscreen. It's got a 32 digital input card and a 32 digital output card. This version's got Profibus and Profinet, and we're going to communicate across Profibus for this tutorial. So start up Semantic Manager, and we want a new project. Well, we can use a wizard because it'll actually. I'll go without a wizard because it'll show you some steps that the wizard does for you. Give it a name. I'm going to store it in C drive projects. That's fine. So we've got an empty project here. So because we didn't do the wizard, we need to insert a PLC station. So Semantic 300. So this is the 300 series. So that's added in there now. And let's open up the hardware for this station. So we want to add a PLC. So before we can add a PLC, which is the CPU, and under this folder, we need to add a rack to put the PLC on. So there's our rack 0, and I find this is easiest to search via. Well, here's all the different brands, well, not brands, models of the PLCs. This version is a 315-2N, so 2 Profinet, DP, 2 Profinet, 1 Profibus. That's the part number, and that is the version. So if you look under the, if you lift up the cover for the ports, you'll see a firmware version, and this has got 3.2.6. You ignore the last number. That's like minor revisions, so you only do the first two. So this is 3.2. So we'll click and drag that in. Give it an IP address. Subnet mask is fine. Okay. Now let's add the I/O for it. So we'll minimize that. The I/O is going to be under SN300. We can dig down and find them in here, or it's easiest just to search for the based on the part number, and the part number is on the bottom of the cards. So 321. I've used it before, so found it. Click on that and search. It pulls up the very first product with that part number. Digital input 32, 24 volts. So I click and drag that, and that is in my first available slot, which is 4. Even though it's physically located next to the PLC, it appears that there is a slot empty here. The PLC takes up 2 slots in the memory, so that's a bit confusing. And we'll do the same for the digital outputs, 322. And that's my part number. Let's search for that. So 32 outputs at half an amp each. So stick that in there. So that's our PLC rack setup. I'm just going to save and compile. There's save. There's also save and compile. So I generally hit save and compile. I'm just going to make some setting changes on the PLC. So if I double click on the PLC, I can get into its properties. I can give it a name. This is a test bench PLC. Protection. If you want to put a password on for downloading, you tick this one, and they need this password to download. If you want to really lock people out, you can tick this box, or not tick, and then they can't even read the code, so we won't put any password on. under clock and memory, turn on the clock byte. So the PLC has its own internal clock, and by turning on the clock byte, it stores those bits from memory byte 0 in this case. So I'll have to look up what they all are, but you'll get a 1 Hz, a half a Hertz, a 2 Hz clock cycle. So these are good if you need flashing outputs for alarms or lights or stuff like that. There's other parts in here for like turning on the web server and stuff, but we won't be doing any of that now. Let's open up our NetPro. I've got to save the hardware manager to come in here, so yeah, okay. So here's the PLC that I've created, and by default it's got an MPI network. We're not using MPI, we're using DP, which is Profibus. So double click on that and we'll go and choose Profibus. And there's no network, let's create a new network. Okay. Okay. Don't change anything in here generally. The PLC is the master. Okay. So we can see that the PLC is connected to our Profibus network. Let's add in a Profinet network, even though we won't use it. So we can go to subnets, we can add another Profibus like this one, or we can add an industrial Ethernet, which is our Profinet. And it can talk to that network there. We're not using MPI, so we'll delete that. Now, there's multiple ways to set up the connection to the PLC. Generally you will, if you come back here, you can just go option set PG interface and you get this window here. I prefer to use NetPro to configure my communications. They both do work. If one doesn't work, try the other one. So this is going to represent my laptop. So under interfaces, my laptop's going to have a Profibus interface. I've got a USB adapter for Profibus plugged in, which you can see via under my VM. Not plugged in at the moment. So here it is here. So there's my adapter. So I want to connect it to my virtual machine. Connect. Going back to where I was, my laptop's going to be on the Profibus network, and node address 3 is fine, it's not used. Okay, so here we can see my PG is connected on my Profibus network, so that's how I'm going to route and connect to the PLC to download. I'm going to make this connection here active. So actually, I'll create another interface so you can choose between them. So my PC could also connect via Ethernet or Profinet. So I could connect via Profibus or Profinet. Let's activate the Profibus one. So it's my Profibus interface, and I've got a PC adapter Profibus. Let's assign that. Sign and it's active. Okay, so the yellow indicates how it's your PG set up for talking to the PLC. We'll save that, compile and check everything. No errors, so that's good. Close our NetPro. Let's see if we can hit the PLC. Could have done this before. So display accessible nodes, PLC. You'll get different options down here depending on what window you have active. So probably PLC might be fairly consistent, but options will definitely change depending where you are. Probably not a great example, but we want to see if we can find the PLC, see if we're plugged in right, our cable's working. So this has just opened up a new schematic manager and accessible nodes. It's found Profibus address 2, and here's some code that's currently on the PLC. We'll delete all this, we'll blow it away. So I can see in a PLC at address 2, so I'm connected fine. We notice now that our Profibus network that we created under NetPro is now showing connected to our X1 port, MPI/DP port of the PLC. The Profinet ones don't show up here. So if I click on the PLC and I click download, okay, I want to go to rack 0 slot 2. The PLC is always in slot 2. I normally just click OK, but let's just make sure that we can see the PLC again. Yep, there it is. Okay. And it says, hey, there's some stuff different. My version offline has the same part number, same firmware, -6, same station name, same module name, just a different plant designation. So that's okay, I'll overwrite that. System data's, I think, contains some of your hardware managed information, so we'll just override that because we have generated a new system. Okay, the PLC goes into stop mode, and now it's asking, do you want to restart the PLC? Let's go here, yes, and the PLC is booted back up. So we've successfully downloaded to the PLC. Let's close that.